It's a poll that has been doing the rounds lately, and it's one of the most extraordinary polls I think I've ever seen. Can we just click into this? So if you're listening, basically the question is, how does Britain view violence towards refugees and immigrants? And it's from a source we think, which is connected to it's basically a data arm of one of these polling companies, and they polled something like 12,000 people, 1,200 people.
Who is it? Just for the record, we think.
We think, yeah. Okay. And they polled 1,200 people in the days following the Southport murders, and basically was asking, how do people feel about violence towards immigrants? And it's an extraordinary result. So the first one is, and the question is, when it comes to the refugee problem, violence is sometimes the only means citizens have to get the attention of the British politicians. Now, in a functional democracy, that should be like 1 or 2%. In this, it's 39%. 39% of people think the only way that the British government will ever listen to them is if they commit acts of violence.
But you see, you go back to the fact that 50% of the population didn't bother to vote.
Yeah.
And those overlap. I mean, 50% didn't vote.
Yeah.
That's pure sort of disaffection, isn't it? I was looking at abroad, if you sort of scroll out on that graph, it was since 1997 participation kind of fell off a cliff, and it's never really come back. Before 97, all the way through the post-war years, or certainly before the war, World War II, I mean, participation was very, very big in Britain.
Yeah.
Ever since 70%, something like that?
Yeah, up around that sorts of numbers. And after 1997, absolutely dropped off a cliff and has never recovered.
And what is it now? You were saying the numbers before?
Well, we have 60% of the population voted.
But 15% aren't registered.
15% are not registered, including myself. Anybody loses, and they just don't bother. And I found that when I was getting signatures, people say, I don't think I'm on the electoral roll. Some of them don't even know if they're on the electoral roll.
Well, I mean, what does voting do? When you vote for something, you don't get it.
Yeah, when you're convinced correctly that you live under a uni party, and I've been voting my whole life. If you're older, so I've been voting for 50 years, and they've never ever done the things we wanted them to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Why would you keep doing it?
Just going back to the free speech issue, I thought it would be quite funny if we could find something that they thought was arrestable. Okay, whatever it is, all illegal immigrants should be turfed out, or.
Well, that's definitely arrestable.
Yeah. Okay. And then we get 1 million people to tweet it at the same time, or 2 million, because there is a poll tax sort of issue here that you can pick off people, but you can't pick off 5 million people. You can't pick off 1 million people.
I guess the CPS would almost at random pick a few.
Yes,
to make an
I'm
example
saying that you could have a movement to actually have 1 million people retweet something.
I can tell you how they respond to that, because my clicking thing's not working. But can we go to the? Is that working? Can we go to the next tab? So this is basically a list, the Crown Prosecution Service showing off all the people that they're jailing. So let's start scrolling down through this, because it's quite a long list. But yeah, basically, so here we go. Gerard Boyce, 43, Jamie Michael, 45, Jamie Aspin. I mean, you just go through them. There's a whole long list of people, and this is.
Can I just go quickly through it? Just have a look.
Oh, there's loads of this.
Yeah,
but basically, I mean, this is the game.
Thing, of course, as well. Up to now, every single one is male, by the way, and every single one is a particular demographic age as well. Yeah.
Right.
There's an older one, slightly older, couple of older ones there. But look at the age groups and look at they're all male, and they're all between about 12 and 40, most of them.
Yeah.
There is something of the NKVD about this. That they're not just doing it, but they need you to know that they're doing it.
That is exactly the strategy, because they simply cannot deal with the level of people who feel that immigration needs to be reduced. So what they're going to do is they're going to make an example of a handful of cases, and they're going to put a megaphone up to this. So this is the other thing that you see. I mean, it's not on this tweet, but you'll see tweets from the police where they're knocking down somebody's door and throwing some middle-aged woman as she's making breakfast for the kids roughly to the ground, and the children are screaming and they're throwing on the handcuffs, and then they haul her up by her hair and say, did you post this on Facebook? Right, you're going to jail then. Arresting middle-aged mums for Facebook posts. This is what a brittle panicky regime will do. It will make an example of a number of people. So let's go back to the original poll. I just wanted to answer the question about how they deal with it. Like I say, an extraordinary, worrisome poll. The next question is: attacks against refugees' homes are sometimes necessary to make it clear to politicians we have a refugee problem.
Now, this is extraordinary. I mean, this is almost Bangladeshian.
Yes.
This is like haul people out.
Well, it is sectarianism, isn't it? It's sectarian, low-level.
Well, that's the sort of thing you'd expect to find people agreeing to in Northern Ireland or like you say, Bangladesh exactly. I mean,
for anyone listening, 34% agreed with that.
Yes, 34% of people agreed it's legitimate to attack refugees' homes. Clearly reprehensible. Clearly that's not right. But and I understand kind of the underlying theme here, as we were talking about it in the previous segment, is that you vote and vote and vote and nothing happens. You make arguments and nothing happens.
I think
you are gaslit it the whole time.
Has become now religious. It's become in your heart.
It's tribal, certainly.
But it's also, it's what happens to you every day when you walk down the street and you see something you don't like. I did it this morning. I'll be honest. If a car is in the middle of the motorway going at 55, I look across to see who the hell is causing this mess.
Oh yeah. Don't do that. That's noticing.
No, but it's annoying. Yeah,
yes,
I know it is. But people do this stuff, and in fact, it was a woman on her phone, and then somebody will make a comment like, "Oh well, woman bloody driver on her phone," but People feel stuff. It's a feeling that they have.
They've got eyes and ears.
They have eyes. They see stuff. They see it. They just don't like it. The English are a law-abiding lot of people. They like order. Well, they like cues.
They've been pushed a long way. And the thing is, this is my thing. So, I mean, I've been speaking out about this for years. And I know, people like you and Carl have been speaking about this, even longer than I have. The reason we're speaking out about this stuff and mass immigration is because we don't want there to be violence against.
I can tell you one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, and I have written articles about this. When I was 21, I was in India at a postgraduate university in Delhi, and Mrs. Gandhi was shot by a Sikh, and they were killing Sikhs in my bathroom. In my university bathroom, down the road, down the corridor.
Right.
And you don't want to live through that. You never want to see that or live through that. Myself and a friend, because we were both not Indian, we walked to the centre to look at what was going on. And it was horrifying. Horrifying. You never forget it. I've also written about Nepal that's got 70 different groups and 70 different languages. And not only that, each group has its own class structure within it and its own economic class structure. And they vote sectarianly. Every single one votes sectarianly. And you have a totally ungovernable society.
Yes.
Completely. And I wrote 10 years ago that this is what we are forming.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's already happened now. We've got 5, or is it 6? Six if you count Jeremy Corbyn, MPs who are there for Palestine, basically. Yeah. So and things, once one side of the ethnic mix goes down this route, it kind of forces everybody else to do it as well. Yeah. So increasingly, you're going to see, the white majority will start voting along sectarian lines as well, because they have to, because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, is multiculturalism not a strength then? So that doesn't make society better.
It would seem perhaps not. I mean, at least, I'll go on because, like I say, extraordinary poll. What's this one? Hostility against refugees is sometimes justified, even if it ends up in violence. 32% of people agreed with that. Again, like you say, this is like third world level stuff. Xenophobic acts of violence are defensible if they result in fewer refugees settling in your town. 36% of people agreed with that. And Yeah, this is what you would expect to see in like tribal Africa or Southeast Asia or something, or South Asia.
But a country at war with itself.
Yeah.
A house divided, that's what that is.
Yes.
Well, it's not necessarily at war, because there are countries like Nepal. Well, they had their war was a Maoist war, so they had a war, but it was different. But you can have a country that just doesn't function. It doesn't work. Like, for example, if you need to, if one particular group is administering the part of the driving license office, you need to send somebody from that group to get the bit of paper or some other document you need. It doesn't function because everything is it's about trust in society as well. Nothing really there's no trust. You lose. Africa's done a lot of studies on this about the trust levels that develop between tribes. And this is what we have created. We create a lack of trust. You don't trust that person. Yep. So you're extra strenuous about.
Yeah.
And I notice it. I can tell you how I notice it. I mean, this is an extraordinary thing because I run holiday accommodation whose cards don't go through first time. And it's not necessarily because they don't have any money. It's because they put the wrong details deliberately. Why? Because of the lack of trust.
Right.
And I can tell you before I put the card in which one will fail.
Yeah.
So, and I can also tell you which ones.
You're doing a lot of noticing, Catherine.
Well, I just observe it, but people. It's when everybody else starts to observe this stuff.
There are some cultures that value sort of cheating and lying, and others that value the truth. There are some cultures in the world where if you don't try and game the system and cheat people here or there, then you're a chump. You're an idiot. That you should do it. And we never really had that culture.
We are a high trust society.
If you go back to sort of the 1950s or whatever, it'd be an extremely high trust society.
But if there was Twitter in the 1950s, everybody would just sign up with their name and give their address in their bio. Whereas these days, I mean, all those people arrested on that other tab, how many people are going to be signing up for social media under their own name if they have even a vaguely right-wing opinion anymore? I mean, I will, because my face is out there at this point. But most people will just stop doing it. They start giving false details. They do it through a VPN because they know that they'll be arrested if they say, "I don't like children."
Don't worry,
murdered.
Nick Lowles is on the case to dox you real quick.
Yeah,
I got active in politics at 2014 when Merkel opened the gates. Before that, I'd never voted, and I did it specifically to stop violence. I knew where this would go. I had seen it. I've seen it so many times.
Well, and
especially you see it in India, you see it in Bangladesh today.
Yeah.
This is the most horrifying thing.
But
when
the left and the government think that what they have to do is just stamp on this entirely and stop people from talking about it and shut them out of the political process. And your point earlier about, we have community leaders for certain groups, but who are the community leaders for the white working class?
And there used to be Labour councillors. That would be who should be your
But they genuinely believe they have to cut these people out of every other option than violence and then beat them at the violence. That's what they think. And that's why you're getting poll results like this where 40% of people saying...
It's disturbing, this.
Yeah. It's very disturbing that we have to use violence against refugees because it's the only thing we have left to us.
Well, and then the other thing we were talking about, I live in a dystopian world where, I go to a part of Great Yarmouth and then literally 5 minutes drive, I go to a place that's, a place, it just won England in Bloom. And I've gone from some sort of multicultural, violent, rubbish-infested hellhole to... England and Bloom, and you go the same thing in Swindon. And the same thing. And then, of course, in the northern cities, it's in your face every single day in somewhere like Hull. Hull is just, I don't know all the places, but Hull has had this great influx of Somalis, and it's just changed it overnight. And people cannot help avoiding it, seeing it.
Yes.
Starmer and the party, just like in Orwell's 1984, the last most essential command is that you don't believe the evidence of your own eyes and ears.
Yeah.
That is what they're doing here now.
Yeah.
There was
We are in that
I know we're
territory.
diverging, but there was a really interesting tweet about that Algerian boxer who won the gold.
I missed that.
You know, the one
Yeah.
who was the woman.
Oh,
man.
the lady.
The lady.
Yes.
And when he won the gold, the coach had him with his legs round his neck. And somebody tweeted, we're talking about Orwell, you see how he's being, they are being treated. That's not a woman. The Algerians do not consider that a woman. Because
Right.
you wouldn't put me round your shoulders as we,
No, probably
even
not.
if we won this election. I think it would be
Yes.
unusual for you to
Yes.
suddenly hike me up on your shoulders, would you not?
Yes.
Dan?
Probably not. No.
But do you get what
Yes.
I mean?
No, entirely,
You don't
entirely.
hike women up
Well,
on
no one
your
believes it.
shoulders.
Again, it's
a man, and they were treating him like a
Yeah.
man. That was the Algerians believe he's a man, and of course, you know, they were talking
Let
about
me just
Orwell
quickly
there.
touch on a couple more
Yeah.
points from this poll, and then we move on. But it asked, how do you characterise the events? And the majority said, it's a mix of riots and protests.
Yeah.
Some people think that it was just coordinated far right attacks. I mean, coordinated by who? I mean, Russia probably. That's what these people think. But so don't particularly take an issue with that one. It asked what experience, what emotions did you feel experiencing the riots? And I think, quite frankly, all of them are justified to some extent. Now, a bit broken down by parties. Don't care about that. Oh, and this is what were the top 3 reasons for the riots in the UK? And 72% said it was about immigration, which is about right. 71% said it was racism. So clearly there's some overlap between the two, but that's odd. But
Yeah, how do those numbers make sense?
well, you can think, I suppose,
Or anti-white racism.
Yeah, exactly. 52%. So these are the sort of the TV watchers and the broadsheet readers say it's violence for its own sake. I mean, if that's true, why isn't it happening every summer or every
Just
month?
spontaneous violence.
Yeah. I mean, which is such a brain dead take. It's difficult to digest. But there were some interesting findings in here. Oh, and yeah, do you support or oppose it based on your view of what it was? And 80% of the people who said it was about immigration, they then supported it.
Right.
Which is interesting. And the
That
people who thought it was about racism opposed. I mean, nothing particularly surprising there. So then
But the interesting thing is that 54% of the people who thought it was about racism supported it.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yes, that was also interesting. Yes.
That was very polarizing, though, that evidence.
Oh, very, very polarizing. And we're going down the sort of US political route of everything is polarized to the point where it becomes impossible to find a solution. But, this is bad. Clearly, we don't support it, obviously. And the reason why we say what we say is because we don't want the UK to turn into some sort of version of Romper Stomper. That would be a bad thing. So, Keir Starmer, if you're watching, would you kindly get a grip on this issue and speak to people's legitimate concerns, because people do have legitimate concerns. Because if you leave people with the impression that there is no other outlet than violence, then people will support violence, and that is a bad thing, and you need to get on top of this.
I'm just afraid, just to finish on that, I'm just afraid he will never do it.
No, he probably won't.
Because
he probably pushes to violence.
He's a true believer.
Yep.
It's a line in the sand.
Yep.
I think he thinks of himself as some sort of Stalinist or Maoist type figure, where, no, there's a party line,
Yep.
or like Big Brother. No, there's a party line, and that's the end of the story. The world can burn down before I break that party line.
Yeah, true ideologues, and they will drive us over the cliff of their ideology. It's very sad.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're up to, you can follow our series Lads Hour, where we always have a good bit of fun and have a bit of a laugh. It's behind the paywall, so you get to see all the things that you wouldn't normally see on things like YouTube. And if you want to see all the other work we're doing, you can follow us on Twitter, where we post links to everything. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.